A few weeks ago, just after the passage of SB 1070, at a conference of an organization that has nothing to do with civil rights, nothing to do with Latin American interests, and at the opening session, the leader of the organization felt he had to say something about SB 1070. Are Americans who don't normally think of themselves as implicated in this law, are organizations that don't normally think of themselves as implicated in this law, pulled into the debate, whether they want to be there or not? Gebe?
Yes, I think that they are, because I think that, we can't deny who we are. We are an evolving nation that is changing demographically, and that means always an economic issue for us, for everyone. We have a buying power to consider. Businesses have to think about where their workers and their markets are going to be coming from. And, I think that everyone is affected by it. When we talked earlier about the churches, the faith leaders being opposed to this law, I remember hearing the National Association of Evangelicals leaders saying that they got involved in this because a good third of their denominations now are immigrants. So everyone is implicated in this because it is who we are and where we are in our time in history.
We've had an unprecedented number of amicus briefs filed in this case. Usually you don't file them until they get to the Supreme Court. This is being filed on the motions. And we had 140 groups, and they include women's groups, for example, because they're concerned about the impact on domestic violence and enforcement against that if victims become afraid to report to the police.
All right, that's a good example of somebody who can see their interests. Yeah. Are any of the Amici people you say, wow, I didn't think that they would think of this as their fight?
We have African Americans. The NAACP is actually a plaintiff in the case. And normally African Americans, you don't think about African Americans and immigration. In fact, there's been a lot of effort by the people who oppose immigration to try to recruit African Americans, and yet they are very concerned because they know that racial profiling is always, it generally does not end up targeting white people, but ends up targeting all people of color. And so they're very much engaged now in the debate. We see counties from across the country are engaging who aren't from Arizona, but who are concerned that this may be coming to their town. And whether they care about the policy or not, as Mary said, it's very expensive to try to do this. The amount of money that you have to pump into your police force, not just the money you lose because of boycotts or because people are afraid, but the amount of money it actually takes to try to put this in place is enormous. And every town who's tried to do it before has suffered huge economic losses.
And Ray, you were talking about the interests here. I want to mention that there is a coalition of business groups, like local chambers of commerce in Arizona, who are opposed to this law. Why? Because a lot of their members do business with Mexico. And the Mexican government has told its people and its businesses, it's as a government, not to do business in Arizona.
This is causing all kinds of unusual or at least surprising effects as when they roll out, to have the president of Mexico, not just in the abstract or in a private meeting or in an interview with a reporter, but before a joint session of the Congress of the United States, single out a single state's law and call for its repeal. We know we're in unusual territory when that kind of thing happens, when a foreign head of state singles out one state's law.
Well, and that's fine and well. Obviously, to what Gebe said, there's been a backlash from folks in Mexico, governors. The Border Governors Conference is probably, it's pending right now. It might be moved because the governors from Mexico say we're not coming. That's all well and good. I think that the reason there has been such a response from unlikely folks in the U.S., I mean, the Major League Baseball Players Association issued a statement before we had a chance to talk to them, sports figures. It's because this Arizona did not arise organically. The people working on this have been working on it for years. They've been using local jurisdictions as their legal laboratory without any regard to what kind of legal fees and other problems they left those folks saddled with. That's where the sustained systematic assault that I was talking about comes from. And they also say they have other legislative challenges in their pocket, including challenging Plyler v. Doe, birthright citizenship. So, and the other thing to understand, particularly where it comes to Arizona, is the population of Arizona is at least 1/3 Latino. They've been founding figures in that state. This ain't about immigration. This is about a demographic change where Latinos bear a prominent face and people are using immigration to go after that. That's what makes this so pernicious. And that's why I think a lot of Americans, even if they don't get all the weeds, are like, something's not right here.
Yet, for what Gibby said and what you just said, with the changing numbers and all kinds of unlikely organizations finding they have to pick sides in this fight, there is still majority approval among rank-and-file Americans for this law.
So it was for Jim Crow laws.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that doesn't change the fact that they were both immersed, they were in statute, those laws, but they were also in the customs and folk ways and ways of daily life of the places where Jim Crow went on. And taking them out by the roots is more involved than just having a constitutional debate about the 14th Amendment. You're right, there is something deeper going on, but it doesn't end with the end of the law.
There's much more going on than a lawsuit. There's much more than that going on. So I think that to say that we're trying to take it off by the roots by focusing on a lawsuit doesn't do justice to the amount of organizing that, it's not our organizations, it's around the country that is going on this.